Morning students, in this video we will see about the JIT essentials. So JIT is a popular version control system for software development. It allows you to manage different versions of code within a repository. So version control software like JIT, it can handle the complicated task of maintaining different versions of source code. So the first generation was very simple. Developers worked on the same physical system and checked out one file at a time. So this generation of version control software made use of a technique called file locking. So when a developer checked out a file, it was locked and no other developer can edit the file. So the figure illustrates the concept of this. So a developer is working on file version 1 file, that is a previous version file. When he is checking out, the version 1 will be released. Another developer is working on the file. When he is checking out, the version 2 will be released. So this figure illustrates the concept of this type of version control. This includes division control system and source code control system. So the second generation, so the problem with the first generation include that only one developer can work on a file at a time. This results in a bottleneck in the development process. Developers have to log in directly to the system that contains the version control software. These problems were solved in the second generation of version control. In the second generation, files are stored on a centralized server in a repository. Developers can check out separate copies of a file. When the developer completes work on a file, the file is checked into the repository. So if two developers check out the same version of a file, then the potential issue exists. So this process is handled by a power process is called as merge. So suppose two developers checking out same version 5 for file. So now if when after Bob completes its work, he checks the file back in. So this results in a new version of the file, version 6. Sometimes later, so checks a file. This new file must incorporate her changes and Bob changes, and then the new version will be released. This is accomplished through the process of merge. So the third generation is referred to as distributed version control system. As with the second generation, a central repository server contains all the files in the project. Our developers don't check out the individual files from the repository. Instead, the entire project is checked out, allowing the developer to work on the complete set of files rather than individual files. So the steps in the second generation to perform a merge and then commit the new version to the repository. So with the third generation, files are checked in and then also they were merged. So this is the third generation. So here in this host A, they will be working on this some version. So similarly host B, so they can able to check in and then merge. So this in phase 1, so two developers check out a file. So that is based on the third version. So in phase 2, one developer checks that file in, resulting in a version 4 file. So phase 3, the second checked in process results in a version 5 that is not based on the version 4. So but rather independent of version 4. In phase 4, so this is version 3, it is version 3 file is checked in as version 4 by one developer and version 5 as another developer in phase 4 of this third generation commit and merge. So version 6, now the version 4 and 5 are merged to create a version 6. So this is advantage over a single line of development. Developers can commit the changes on a regular basis and not have to worry about merging until a later time. So the merging process could be delegated to a specific developer who has a better idea of entire project or code than the developers have. At any time, the project manager can go back and see exactly what work individual developer created. So requiring a developer to merge before committing often results in developers not wanting to commit the changes on a regular basis. So additionally, you want to encourage developers to commit the changes to repository. So you want to encourage someone who is writing a document to save on a regular basis. So version 5 is in this example is not necessarily the work that the developer originally computed. During the merging process, the developer might discard some of his work to complete the merge process also. So this results in this is not ideal because this results in a lot loss of potential good code. So if you want to access the system as a regular user, you can execute. So whether you have JIT installed in your system or not, using which JIT command. If JIT is installed means then the path will be displayed. If it is not displayed, an error message like this, it will be displayed. So if you are using Debian based Linux system, you can use dpkg command to determine whether the JIT package has been installed or not. So if you are using a Red Hat based system, you can use rpm command to check whether it is JIT is installed or not. So if you are logged in as a root user on a Debian based system, you can use apt-get install JIT to install your JIT. So if you are using Red Hat based, you can use install JIT to install the JIT. So to get a copy of a project from JIT repository, you use a process called cloning. So cloning does not just create a copy of all the files from the repository, but actually it performs three primary functions. First, it creates a local repository of the project under the project name /.jit directory in your home directory. So the files of this project in this location are considered to be checkout from the central repository. So second thing is it creates a directory where you can directly see these files. This is called the working area, so that you are working in this area to what are all the thing you want to incorporate. So changes made in this working area, they are not immediately version controlled. Third stage is it creates a staging area. The staging area is designed to store changes to the files before you commit them to the local repository. So these functions, they are performed by the cloning process. So this first it will be creating a working directory. So that is first it will be create a local repository under this your project name. So next it will be creating a working area, so that you want to where you want to work. Next it will be going to the staging area. So before you are committing to the repository, so it will be gone to the staging area. After that only your changes will be committed to the repository. So these are the changes. So the life cycle of how the local files are committed to the local repository and then pushed to the central repository. So first step is create the file in the repository directory, add the file to the staging area with the JIT add command, commit the file to the repository with the JIT commit command, push the file to the central server using JIT push command. Thank you. So these are all the some of the JIT essentials you should know.